The time has come, the walrus said. Many things. Shoes and ships and sailing wax, cabbages and kings. Now that's a poem. See, we know poems. You know poems. You write poems. Hello. Hello, my poet friends. I'd be like, well, that's really jumping the gun there. Beast King. Slow down. Fair, 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 fair. Some of you have crossed over. Some of you were already poets. I didn't want to give you a shout out. What you just did was a lot. Have you? What is it? How have you? Where are you? How have you landed? How are you doing? I want to give you a hug. I do. I do. You have no idea how much I want to give you a hug. So you've written poems, found poems from Jennifer Jason Espinosa. You've written a poem, quite possibly in the lines of Frank O'Hara, which mostly involves exuberance, which is a good thing. About YouTube videos of watching trans people talk about, usually young people talking about their transition. Whoa, that was a big whoa. You have read and thought about trans medicine and trans medical practitioners. We're at the end. I'm gonna miss you. I don't know you. You know, if you ever want to say hello, if you Google Jack Queer New York, I'm on the internet, write me a note. I would love to hear your poems. If you ever want to share your reflections, I'm also on the tweeter. I will get your tweets. Yeah. So you've done a lot. We have some last reflections, and I promise to share my poems. So you don't have to listen to me share my poems after this, but I want to be honest and be with you too in this journey. So as a medical practitioner, we're at the end, we're last reflections. What have you learned differently to support trans patients, colleagues, friends, family? How you doing? Right? How's that landing? Are you gonna fight to change the forms? Are you gonna meet people differently? You're gonna say, hey, I did this trans bias. Right. Whoa. That's a lot to explain or think about. Gonna keep reading, gonna keep watching the TikToks. Yeah, how do you commit to continue to learn about trans issues? It doesn't end. You think you have learned a lot, right? But part of the way you're gonna need to do that too is how are you gonna commit to learning more about your own gender identity? You can keep writing poems, you can make art, you could storytell. TikTok is just a form of storytelling, although it's addictive, right? I think we talked about that. I think you guys know that too. Man, of all people, I don't need to convince you. So, I want to see if there's anything else on my long list of many things here that I wanted to make sure to like anything else, just checking. We talked about, calling somebody their name. We talked about what dead naming is, transitioning, lifelong process. We talked about coming into your body, being out, different things, similar things, related things, gender, sexuality, race, class, disability. One thing, we're all one thing. I hope you know that there's no right thing to say. You can say, hey, what do you want me to learn about you? What do you want me to know about you? I know things move fast in your world. That's hard. There's a possibility, though, of connecting less by always. There is a meal of harm and hurt, also a de-escalation of that and things that you do. They could be small, right? It could be about body parts or sex practices, sexuality, gender identity, race, heritage, class, citizenship, generation, aging. There's so many things that are different, right? So, could you be kind to yourselves too? Please. Because it's hard to be kind to somebody else if you're not kind to us. Hard to be kind to someone else if you're not kind to us as like yourself. Okay, here are my poems. You guys can be done right now. You can be like, I'm gonna save myself. I'm gonna go have myself a giant seltzer, big walk with my dog. But how good I am at longing is my module one poem, and this is in the mostly in the words of Joshua Jennifer Espinoza, and I use her quote: "Writing poetry is just about the only thing that keeps me alive." It sounds trite. It's worth sharing. How long I can keep a longing going. Maybe what I mean is a longing of space, less time, not forever and not nowhere. I'm some coherent genre of a trans dyke who even went to Kentucky, Seattle, Oakland, Queens, Greenfield, just for you. Okay, the last one was for me, but still I kiss my fingers hello and women. And it's not me begging you that keeps me, my pride, alive. All these names for bodies, for places, for years I spent in a dyke bar of my soul called yearn, all so beautifully living. And that all mostly sounds true. So now pretend this is very serious. I hope I landed this as a horse lands in a stable. It's found poem. It's the one genre I feel tragic at. So I'm gonna get there with you guys. Here's my Franco Harris poem. I watched just an incredible video by Aaron and Sweeney, Ansuini, 3 months in testosterone. That's the one I randomly found when I Googled. And Aaron was just talking about 3 months on T, just like what was happening. And so I riffed on that and um thought about like telling people, because when you start to transition, you end up telling your friends, this happened, it was so exciting. And so I was thinking about these things that happened and people being like, sure. Uh oh, thank gosh, it doesn't have a name, sorry. Oh, thank gosh and golly, my arm hair is darkening and I finally got that knee hair I've always dreamed about. It surely makes this poem my waking and who the fuck I am in the why bathroom a surprise. It's been many months since, and I have no tears. Oh, they're really there, but I have to search for them. Have no hair there. Have some hair there. Have this deep voice, but my mother can't hear bass. Crap. Have such color in my vision. Oh, that passed. Yes. What the fuck? Have a belly like Uncle Brucey. Have to massage my quads for the injection site scars. I look at you, and I'd rather look at you because you, yes, you in the mirror, finally look like me. And I've never not loved you, but yes, golly, yes, gosh, yes, fuck yes. I love you easier as me being me. Now, so my last one, um, I'm I'm gonna record the screen um, because this one is a little bit more uh, um, like visual. I decided to not write like William Carlos Williams. I used Jordan Abel's Place of Scraps, which I think is just one of the most beautiful things. It's one of the poets I shared about the anthropologist and he took the words away. So I'm gonna start a screen recording. Here we go. Um, here we go. For Vicky and Jules from Jack by Jackie King, 2023, January in Greenfield, Massachusetts. In Vicky's letters, her fat incarnates the undecidable place where the desirable plasticity of the developmental gendered body that makes her intelligible to doctors as a possible transsexual dissolves into the unwillingness of biological form to obey the rigid confines of medicine, normative childhood, and the gender binary. Where development scripted a trajectory that moved in one direction, multiple modes of growth overran that neatness and spread the meaning of Vicky's trans childhood into non-teleological forms that show up only briefly in her letters. In other words, if woman refused to help her grow into femininity, then oopsie, I didn't mean to stop that. Okay, we're we're just file screen recording. Oopsie daisy, we're doing it, guys. Yeah, you're okay. Yeah. In the interval or latency, animated by the pain and depression of virulent transphobia, was growing fast. These letters, whether willing or not, illuminate some of the ways in which being asked to wait to transition falls upon its own developmental premise. Vicky's body did not stop growing just because she did not have permission to grow feminine. Crucially, the forms into which she grew also partially disobeyed what either woman or Vicky intended. This was Vicky from Ohio, who introduced herself to the endocrinologist Harry Benjamin in 1960 as a 14-year-old boy who wants nothing more out of life than to be a girl, and was forced to await her transition because she was fat. And that was this other growing that Jules Gill Peterson, absolutely brilliant historian, trans woman, wrote in Histories of the Transgender Child about this. And so this really struck me, and so I'll show you these poems. Vicky incarnates the undecidable place where desirable gender makes a trajectory that moved, spread, Vicky's trans childhood. In other words, animated letters, being asked to transition. Vicky's body did have permission to grow. A possible transsexual dissolves, where non-teleological forms and words help up into femininity, then growing being its own premise. Vicky's body did. Third, Vicky, her developmental gendered, her Vicky, her, Vicky's body, because she, crucially, Vicky. Fourth, development scripted a trajectory that moved, refused, whether wittingly or not. Vicky's body did not stop growing. The forms she grew also disobeyed. And last but not least, her fat, the place where the desirable body makes her intelligible to Vicky. So there you have it. These are my poems. How did I feel reading my poems? I honestly had this whole curriculum ready the whole time. I pitched this from the start exactly like this. And what took me the longest was writing these poems. It was hard. One thing we haven't talked about, I'm not a professor anymore. Because there was no trans healthcare for me in Kentucky. It was fundraised through private funding, an annual gala. And when the pandemic hit, there was no more money. And I could get a doctor's appointment every year and a half, 2.5. This was like for a general GP. And that could be canceled and I could wait years. My grad students were having their hormones taken away because the one nurse in charge of them didn't like their attitude that week. She didn't know, she didn't have training. And I would meet people who would say very harsh, horrible things to me who just didn't know. They had been told I had horns, I don't. So can make anybody else's life easier because takes a lot of work to teach, to learn, to understand. Yeah. I send you love and light and peace. I hope you keep poetry. I hope you keep these books. Of all the books that you keep, I hope you keep Sleeping on the Wing because I hope you find it again. I hope you maybe give Talking to the Sun by Kenneth Koch to children. And I hope you have poetry in your life. I hope you have trans people in your life too, but poetry will keep us all alive and breathing. Be well. And again, be kind to yourselves. Thank you for all that you do.